Hello, welcome to Piper's Notes. I'm Piper and this is my dad. And today we have a very special episode of Piper's Notes. Today we have the NWA National Champion, Trevor Murdoch.
Hey, champ.
What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
Man, we're doing good. How are you doing?
I'm a big ball of joy. Look at me, man. I'm like a butterball.
So, first we'd like to begin by congratulating you on your recent championship for the
Thank
NWA
you, Miss
National
Piper.
Champion.
Thank you.
And you're no stranger to championships. You've won them all over, from the WWE to the Harley Race territory there. But this one
Yes,
has to be very special for you, with roots in the NWA, and you being a very tradition oriented guy with a history with Harley.
Yes, it was this company, NWA, has always had a really special place in my heart, like you said, because of Harley. Being a Harley Race guy, as I got older, I always wanted to do kind of the things that Harley did. I wanted to walk his path. I wanted to step into his shoes. I wanted to go have hour-long matches, and I could never get an hour. The most I ever got was a 45-minute long match, and that was a struggle. But it was important to me that when this opportunity came up with the NWA, that I felt like it was part of my DNA, man. That was my direction. That was this is where my line is. And to be an NWA National Heavyweight Champion means more to me than just a championship or a title next to my name. It means that all my hard work is finally, I lose my words sometimes because I get so excited about it, because I've imagined this moment my whole career, and to actually be living it and doing it, man, it just brings joy to my heart. But it also brings a lot of guys out of the woodwork wanting to kick my ASS.
Well, I don't know how. I know you. I saw a little tweet exchange that you had yesterday with Poppy Esco and all that. I don't know how in tune you were mentioning that you're not the most tech savvy person, but in our Twitter community, like what we call the hashtag NWA fam, like, you are beloved. You have been over like Rover since that Ricky Starks match and the interview afterwards. Are you aware of what the chatter that we have about you and everything?
I honestly, I'm not, and I feel bad, because I love interacting with my fans, especially right now with us being in a pandemic and not being able to directly wrestle in front of a live crowd. Being on social media and interacting with them is so important. Man, you guys, the NWA family, you guys literally willed me back into existence. So, like, it was, everybody asked me, how did things go with NWA, and how did that all start? And it started with one match, and that's all I asked for was one, or not even asked for. That's all I agreed to was, I'll do one. And man, after that first match, people are like, we got to have more Trevor, and I'm not used to that. It makes my heart feel, pulls the heartstrings.
Yeah. What kind of student were you in high school?
Miss Piper, I'm not gonna lie to you. I wasn't the best. And let me explain. I didn't have the greatest of childhoods. When I was about 9 years old, I was put into foster homes. Whatever the situation was with my parents, school was not a main focus of mine. I grew up thinking that I just need to get out of school, just get away from it, and I didn't put a lot of focus to it. As I've gotten older, I've realized that it was a huge mistake. When you're in school, and I try to pass this on to my own children, this is an opportunity for you to learn and experience the world, learn our history, learn how things work in this world. And if you don't pay attention, you're going to miss out on some important information that most likely, as an adult, you're going to go, why don't I know that? And now as I get older, I love being in school. I'm actually working on taking a couple college classes, just trying to better myself. But I wasn't the greatest of students. Not to mention, I lived on my own when I was 16. I had my own apartment, so my junior and senior year, and I I had a really good time as a young man, and I probably should have focused more in school.
Well, I'm actually an educator myself, and I didn't have I'd probably had a similar background to yours. I'd be curious what advice you would have to not only to students. 'Cause I teach in a Title I school district. Lots of poverty, lots of transients, lots of we're right in the middle of the opioid epidemic. This is I'm in northwest Georgia, southeast Tennessee. What advice do you give to those kids that have similar circumstances, and maybe more important, what advice do you give to the teachers who are teaching these kids?
First off, to the teachers, I'm just asking for them to be open-minded. We, as human beings, we tend to get wrapped up into our own little ball and circle of life, and it's hard sometimes to see what's outside that bubble, and it's hard to even understand that. So as a teacher, just please go into the situation and with an open heart. Please go into it with an understanding that this is, granted, this child may be only 1 hour of your day, but the life they're living it's in the background. They live 24/7. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to open up your heart. And for a kid, what I can tell you is, I know right now things don't seem to be the best. Things in your head right now, things are a struggle. Life's a struggle. Just remember not to give up on yourself. You know what I mean? Don't give up on who you are as a person. If you want something, work hard for it. Don't take no for an answer. I get questions all the time from wrestlers. What do I got to do to get to the show? And I don't have an honest answer for that, because everybody's path is different. But the one thing that I know is the same with everybody is they never took no for an answer. They were told no. They were told no. I was told no 1,000 times. But I just kept reminding myself, I only need one yes. And you have to keep pushing forward with that.
That's beautiful. Okay. Wrestling is one of the highest forms of performance arts. And as a kid growing up and as a student, what were ways you began to get your skills as a performer? Were you a fan of karaoke?
We're going to get into karaoke. Don't jump the gun.
No. Honestly, when I was a kid, I loved singing. I've always kind of been a goof and kind of a cut up. I like to make people laugh. I like to have fun. So as a kid, we'll back up here just a little bit. As a kid, there weren't a lot of schools. When I got out of high school, there weren't a lot of schools to go to, like wrestling schools like there is now. So I really had no idea how I was going to step towards that path. But what I did know was, when I watched these guys on TV, they had no fear in front of the camera. They were very comfortable. They were very easygoing. And I realized that if I wanted to be a wrestler, I had to be comfortable in front of a crowd. I had to be comfortable talking to strangers. So in school, I was always kind of like the class cut up. I said things, not bad things, but I said things that most people, the guys that wouldn't say. You know what I mean? And it was, I was very outgoing in that aspect. Now, sometimes the teachers loved it and thought I was funny and hilarious. And then I had a few teachers that didn't find my humor nearly as funny as I did.
My dad showed me older videos of you from the WWE, and one of the things I noticed was that you like to sing. You're actually a good singer. I am going to say
thank you, Miss Piper.
I'm impressed.
You are. You're quite good.
I'm a huge fan of karaoke, and I'm curious, are there other ways in which you've explored your musical talent?
Are there other ways that I can support my musical talent?
Or explore? Do you do any songwriting? Do you play guitar on your own?
Explore my musical talent. I sing to my son just being a goof. I sing in the shower just being a goof, and this may be killing my character, my gimmick. But no, especially right now with the pandemic, there's nothing really open. I just really enjoy singing and goofing off. Right now, our world is so stressful when it comes to the political climate, when it comes to what's going on just at everybody's homes right now, with stress with money and food. So it's important, and my wife gets stressed out at times. My son gets stressed out because he'll be at school, and then we shut down for a couple weeks, and he had to come home and virtual learn. So that's a little bit stressful for him. So I tend to use music as just to kind of lighten the mood and goof off a little bit. And I appreciate your guys' kind comments. I just don't know if I appreciate it. I think you guys care about me, and you're being awful nice.
Well, I mean, it's like, I when you were doing that gimmick in WWE, it was intended to be funny, but part of the thing that carried it was like, man, this guy could go into a karaoke bar and kill it. He's actually not bad.
Well, the whole premise behind that, when I actually went to Vince and pitched the idea, because I knew Lance and I were breaking up. So I actually pitched the idea of me singing, doing something with singing, just to kind of help me maybe just stand apart from everybody else. And I actually went into Vince's office, stood behind the door, and said, "Vince, I know you're breaking me up, me and Lance up, but I think I should do something with singing." And he caught me totally off guard, because then he goes, "Well, Trevor, sing me a song." And okay. And Miss Piper, to this day, I can't remember what that song was because I was so nervous. But I remember singing it, and there was like this long. I'm sure it was only 30-second pause, but it felt like 2 hours. And Vince goes, "This is great, Trevor. Oh my God, why didn't you tell me this before? We're gonna put this on TV." And the next week, I am standing on the announcer's table, singing to my tag partner, while I look down, and I've got JR at the bottom of my feet.
So what are some of the songs that you like to sing? Like,
oh my goodness!
Like at a karaoke bar or something?
Yeah, like that.
Like if you were going karaoke, what's your picks? What's
my picks? Well, I don't have, I can't sit here and say that these are the exact songs I would sing. I like to sing a song, obviously, that everybody knows. I wish I had a better answer for you, Miss Piper. I don't have a particular song. Usually when I'm at these karaoke bars, I've had a beverage or two, which tends to build up my confidence. And it's kind of like wrestling. I just kind of find what I think will work and connect with the people.
You spoke a minute ago about killing gimmicks and all that, and I wanted to say that there's something about being authentic that really enhances performance. There's a difference between someone coming out there and just selling a gimmick, and then a Dusty Rhodes or a Ric Flair or a Harley Race, guys that are like they are themselves. What you see is the real guy, And especially right now, and always to some degree, but really right now with what you're doing in the NWA, there's a certain authenticity about you. I think, there are other things like Aaron Stevens. We liked Aaron Stevens a lot, but we really believed in you. Like this guy, we're like, this is Trevor. We're seeing a real guy. When you gave the speech after the match on UW in primetime when you win the belt, we were up there and my wife's choking up. And we're like, gosh, man, this is amazing. So what do you feel like, how do you rate or speak on the importance of being authentic as a performer? And do you feel like the NWA has given you a unique opportunity to be authentic in a way that maybe other promoters haven't?
As a wrestler, you tend to get afforded opportunities. For example, if, when you go for a wrestling company, they have an idea for you. And sometimes that you may not agree with that idea, but this is business. You have to do what you're asked. And every wrestler will tell you that whatever they're doing at that moment is a small part of them just blown up. And just, it's a small part of them that's just times 100. And I've been to other companies and I've had to do certain things that were weren't comfortable for me. But when I came to the NWA, they said, Trevor, I asked them the questions very similar to you. You know, what are you guys looking for? What do you need? Why? What do you need out of me? And they caught me off guard, their response, and it was, we just want you to be you. We just go do you. Go be you. Go do what you feel comfortable and what's in your heart and what you know is right. And I said, and I honestly told him, I said, I don't know if that's very exciting. I mean, I think, you know, I got my wife when I was pretty and young and funny and all that stuff. Now, 18 years later, joke's on her. So I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. And then when they said, just go out and do you, when I walked through that curtain, I didn't have anybody telling me no. I didn't have anybody say, don't do this, don't do that. So I just went out there and I just connected with the people. I looked them in the eye and said, this is who I am. This is where my heart is. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. And it connected to the people. I felt like when I went out there, I got so many comments from just when I had my match with Ricky Starks. And at the end of it, I went up and I had my little comment with Ricky, and I was honest. I didn't win tonight. It just wasn't my night. And people, I got so many, like hundreds and hundreds of comments over that going, that was just so cool, man. We've never seen anything like that before. And I realized that right now, the business is missing a certain amount of authenticity. So I figure if I'm going to go out there, I'm just going to go out there and be real and be myself. And I'm going to react to situations naturally and organically and truthful. I try to react to situations the way you would, the way anybody would in the normal world. If I lose, well, I'm not going to stomp my feet and say I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna get you. And I'm so mad at you. Tonight, I just didn't win. Doesn't mean tomorrow I'm not gonna come get you. But just tonight I didn't win, and it's just that simple. People understand that.
You and I are similar in well, we're not in the sense that we have kids across the spectrum.
You are a pretty SOB, so I understand.
my man. I like that. I've got kids spread across the age spectrum. I've got 2 in college. I've got Piper who's about to start middle school, and then I'm right back in it. I've got a 2-year-old. So what is wrestling meant for parenthood for you? Do you have kids that are into it more than others? What do they think about my dad's on video games? My dad's this big star. Or is it just like that's just life for them?
I am similar to you. I have a daughter who's in college, her 3rd year of college. I have my son's now a freshman in high school, and I have a 4-year-old. So I understand the different levels of where you're at in your life. It's kind of just normal. My kids have grown up with wrestling. I've got pictures of my son and my daughter hanging out with stars, Big Show, Kane, all the guys when I worked with them. And to their friends, it's awesome. It's the coolest thing. Like, they can't believe it. But to my children, that's Dad's work. That's I'm used to seeing Dad on TV. It's normal for them, and but it's normal for them, but now my son being in high school, all of his buddies are finding out. Like, they knew, but now they've got to talk to him and spend time with my boys. So now he's going in. I'm a different kind of cool now because of his buddies think it's cool. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
You know, with my daughter, she's a theater major. So wrestling has kind of given us that connection because she sees the wrestling and being in the movies. Really, there's really not much difference other than the physical pain that a wrestler goes through. So wrestling has opened up conversations between my daughter and I that I don't think she could have with my wife because, no offense to my wife, I just have a lot of experience behind a camera in front of a live audience, and I have a lot of experience in high-pressure situations. So it's afforded me conversations that maybe my daughter couldn't have with other people.
I'm glad you said that. That's a great point. That really is. I know you're busy, and if you ever get a chance to go back and look at our back catalog of episodes, one of the things, our mission on Piper's Notes, the only reason we exist on this show is to show that wrestling fits in the family of performance art, just like theater, just like musicians, whatever. It's a valid, legit form of performance art. I've always been a wrestling fan, and it used to bug me where people are like, oh, wrestling, they just dismiss it off like it's some kind of like crass form of, trailer park entertainment. There's nothing wrong with trailer park, by the way. I mean, I grew up in a trailer park, but it's a legit form of entertainment. And the point you just made about it opening conversations between you and your daughter, that's one of the reasons, that's one of our connections. Is she wants to go into theater and Broadway, and she sees a lot of that in the NWA and in wrestling in general.
And Miss Piper, you're very lucky in the aspect of you being so young, and your dad's helping you kind of immerse you, kind of put you into that situation. You can get that experience and see all this stuff. That was one of the important things with my daughter, because she'd always told me she always wanted to be an actress. So I wanted her, I would take her to shows, and she would see kind of the wizard behind the curtain, and see, wow, I didn't really realize how much, I guess, theater is involved with when it comes to pro wrestling. Still got to put on a show, even though I'm out there fighting somebody and laying the wood to somebody. We still got to entertain, and you should feel very lucky, Miss Piper, that your old man has given you these opportunities.
I love theater so much. My family really, really, really likes to travel. I haven't been outside the U.S. yet, but they have, including Petra, which she is 2, and I'm 11.
Well, I would be hot if I were you, Miss Piper. I would definitely write a letter to somebody.
Yeah. You, on the other hand, you have been to places like Europe, India, and Japan. You're lucky. My only concern about traveling around the world is that once the pandemic passes, I'm really picky. Oh, I'm a really picky eater too. So when the pandemic passed, what should I eat?
I didn't hear that last part.
Speak up a little bit.
My only concern.
You gotta scream it at me, girl. Don't be scared.
My only concern about traveling around the world once the pandemic hit is that I'm a really picky eater, and I don't like a lot of foods. And so, what should I eat?
What should you eat? Well, I'm gonna let you know right now. First thing when it comes down to trying to figure out what to eat, you need to think about where you're at. And what I mean by that is, for example, when you go to Europe or you go to Japan, you can drink the water, eat the ice cubes. But when you go to India or places like that, you don't want to eat the ice cubes. You don't want to drink the water that's not bottled water. Mm-hmm. So first off, you want to think about where you're at and what other people do and don't. For me, when I would go out of the country, vegetables are number one. You can't really go wrong with vegetables. Everybody has vegetables, and they're pretty similar. I'm not a picky eater. I will try anything once, and I'll even tell you a little story. I was in Japan, and I was in the dojo, the only English-speaking guy there, and I always wanted to go out with the other guys. I wanted to go out and experience Japan. I wanted to go out and see the culture. So one night they took me to a comedy show. I couldn't understand anything anybody was saying, but I really enjoyed myself. I enjoyed interacting with the guys. Well, they took me to a restaurant afterwards, and I had no idea what any of the food was. They brought out this huge platter of food, and the only thing I could recognize was the shrimp. So of course that's the first thing I went to. I was like, I'm good with shrimp, I know what that is, but I was still hungry. And I started looking at stuff, and I asked one of the guys, I said, what's that? And they said, you try first. And that's never a good sign when someone tells you to try something first before they tell you what it is. But I wanted to be adventurous. So I tried this it looked like a little piece of Trident gum. Nice, square, this little big. I put it in my mouth. I'm eating it. little rubbery. It's a little greasy, but I'm trying it, and I didn't quite like it, but I tried it. And I asked them, I said, what was that? And they go, Mr. Ed. And I know you know Mr. Ed, Mr. Stinson. Miss Piper may not know. But Mr. Ed was a horse. And what I didn't know was they fed me horse. Again, I tried it. It's a different culture, so they have different ways of living. They have different ideas on things. So I wanted to at the very least, let them know that I tried it. But from then on, I made sure to ask everything, find out what everything was before I tried it. But Miss Piper, you can never go wrong with vegetables. You can never go wrong with rice.
I love that.
But first and foremost, please don't hesitate to try something. Always try it. Because at the very least, you can say, I tried it and I didn't like it. And that's, a lot of people miss out on some amazing things, whether it be food, whether it be experiences, because they just don't want to try it. Just don't want to see it. Don't ever let your heart be so burdened and so covered up that you're not willing to try and experience things in this world. Because there's so many cool things in this world that we get to do, and things that I've learned and seen just because I gave it a try.
Yeah, I love that. You speaking. We try to tell that to her all the time. Just try it. Come on now. You can get
just
right.
Try it. At the very least, I'm okay with you looking at me going, I don't like it. And then I go, okay, honey, you tried it.
This girl goes to
Same
a
thing I
real
tell my
nice
4-year-old.
restaurant and she's ordering chicken tenders. With nothing wrong with chicken tenders. Like, come on now.
I understand. Just give it a try.
I read somewhere that you spent a little time in Athens, Georgia. We are huge fans of the Georgia Bulldogs and the Atlanta Braves. What do you root for college football and Major League Baseball?
Well, I live in Missouri. I've been a Missouri boy my whole life. I have lived other places. I'm a Chiefs fan. I'm a big Chiefs fan, and I'm a Mizzou fan. It's just how I grew up, and that's how I was raised. That's what I followed. I really enjoyed my time in Athens, Georgia. As a young man, there was a lot to experience in Athens, Georgia. I was working for Thrall Car, building railroad cars. And one of my experiences I remember while I was living in Athens, Georgia was I was a young guy, 18, couldn't legally get into bars legally. And I remember going to this club called the 40 Watt Club. And I thought, wow, this place seems interesting. And I walk in, and they have a refreshment stand with alcoholic beverages. They have 2 rows of couches and recliners in front of the stage. And out of nowhere, these 5 guys come out from the back, and they're all wearing luchador wrestling hoods. And they're just, one's getting on the guitar, the other one's just going to town on the drums. And they are just getting it on the microphone in them lucha hoods. And I sat there for 2.5 hours listening to this band that I had no clue who it was, but I just remember how awesome it was at 18 years old. I'm in Athens, Georgia at the 40 Watt Club watching musicians with lucha hoods on. And it was just little stuff like that. And that was because I tried to get in. And it worked.
We don't really get in here and talk a lot about wrestling. I've got one distinctive wrestling question for you, maybe 1 or 2. It's just a general question though. It's not anything about your career or anything like that. Just because you're rooted in tradition, you're one of the first 2 Harley Race students ever, which is huge.
Thank you for doing your homework.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a fan. I've been a fan of you since 2007, 2008. Back with the Lance Cade days and all that. Even your ring persona, whether it was as Trevor Rhodes or Trevor Murdoch, even that's rooted in history. You even look like Dick Murdoch. You have a distinct resemblance now. You're a little more handsome than Dick Murdoch.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
You've won championships around the world. You currently hold one of the most tradition-laden titles in history, a belt held by guys like Buzz Sawyer, Tommy Rich, all of them. You got a pass with former and current NWA champions like Rob Conway, Brent Albrecht, Ric Flair, and now Nick Aldis. Without forecasting your own future in the NWA, I'd like to know, who is on your Mount Rushmore of the great NWA World Champions of all time? Who is your 3 or 4?
Oh, man. First off, Steamboat. Steamboat was champ, right? Yeah, Steamboat was champ. Yeah, there's one. You've got to have Ric Flair on there. It's just, the NWA was going on for so long, but I just feel like when it comes to the NWA, Ric Flair was able to really take it to that next level and put it out in the spotlight. Obviously Harley, you're talking, when I talk about Harley, there's been no other wrestler that I know of that every other wrestler has said the same thing about. And what I mean by that is every wrestler I've ever spoke to, whether when it came down to when I was training or when I was coming up in the business, every wrestler I spoke to said, that's the toughest man on God's green earth. And it wasn't like everybody was saying different, like literally that's the same statement every wrestler that I would talk to about Harley would bring up. And almost in those exact words. He's the toughest wrestler in God's green earth. So number four, you know what? There's a lot of great NWA champions. But we're gonna go ahead and throw the modern era in there because he's done something that most guys couldn't. And first off, he helped resurrect a company and bring a company that was maybe not spotlighted as much back into the spotlight. And right now he's also been able to carry a company on his shoulders when business hasn't been the greatest. And I'll put Nick up there. You know what I mean? He's done the most with the least, if that makes any sense.
Man, I'm probably the biggest Nick Aldis mark on earth. He's been champion now in this second reign for 763 days. I didn't want to bring him up specifically because I know that you guys are on a collision course and it's going to happen. Because I just feel like you give off this vibe. Again, like going back to what we were saying earlier, there's people who sell gimmicks and then there are real people. And I think Nick Aldis is such a diplomat and statesman. And you're so authentic. You're so every man. You're like us, that this is Ric Flair versus Dusty Rhodes. This is all the makings of that. So anyway, I'm about to mark out, so I'll I
love hearing people talk about me. So
he keeps the day of Nick Aldis's reign in his phone. He has an alarm.
That's a little much there, but Miss Piper, you have every right to roll your eyes just a little bit. You're daddy.
What advice would you give a young person like myself, who though may not necessarily want to wrestle, but may want to dedicate myself to a career of performance arts?
Well, first off, you're already on a great path. Okay, most children your age don't have the confidence to step in front of a camera like you are right now and talk to guys like me. So first and foremost, believing in yourself is the first thing, and it seems like you are quite on your way, young lady. Secondly, just pay attention. Watch what happens before the guy gets into the ring. Watch what happens to the guy or girl, I apologize, what she does after the match. When you watch these ladies wrestle, watch them and see how they react to different situations and see how you can take that and implement it in what you want to do. Does that make sense? If you don't have, and what I mean by all of this is this, you don't have to sit there and watch them do the moves, but see how they react personally, interactive to a situation. If one of the ladies is getting abused and getting taken advantage of in the ring, watch her and her facial reactions and how she reacts to that, and see what kind of emotion they are able to draw out of people by their reactions. Because that's what this business is. This business is built on reactions and interactions with the people. When I walk out to the ring, especially with NWA, you have no music, you have no lights, you have no smoke you have nothing to hide you from the people. So for me, when I walk through that curtain, if you watch, I'll take a minute and just stop and look at all of them. And I'll make everybody in the room, at least to the best of my ability, I'll make everybody in the room look like I'm looking at them, like I'm making them feel special. That's the beginning of my interaction to the people. That's the beginning of my connection. I would watch. Harley was a very good individual in the aspect of he could say few words, but you could feel those few words. He wasn't a man of. He wasn't the type of individual that when he was talking to you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that because of this. He didn't explain it to you. He was very direct, and when Harley spoke to you, his voice you felt fear. He was able to control people with just the words out of his mouth. And those are the things that I want you to pay attention to and see what you can do, how you can interact with people, and how you can affect their moods and their attitudes with just a few words. Because when you're out there in front of that camera, Miss Piper, you are the band leader. You are the one that's out there in control. Nobody else. And it's fun and it's exciting. It's scary. It's certainly nerve-wracking at times. But when you've done your job and you walk out of the ring and you walk out you walk out from whatever you're doing, whether it be a performance or whatever, and you hear those people going nuts, there's a fulfillment in your heart that I can't explain it. It's not, you can't get that feeling from food. You can't get that feeling from buying stuff. It's almost it's your heart. For me, it's my heart. When I walk out there, I give everybody my heart. I open up my doors to everybody, and I let them see who I am. Because I want that connection. And I also, for me particularly, I want the fans to know that I'm no different than you. I'm a regular guy. I've got wife. I've got kids. I just saw something that I loved and I worked hard for it, and I didn't take no for an answer. And when you're that authentic, it's hard for people not to see it. It's hard for people not to feel it and understand it and want to be a part of it.
Awesome.
I talk a lot. I'm sorry, Miss Piper.
So do I. If you could go back and talk to young Trevor Murdoch, what advice would you give him?
Get in better shape. First and foremost, don't be afraid to drop some lbs. If I was talking to the younger Trevor, I guess I would tell him to not be so scared to speak up at times. And let me give you an example on that. When I was with the WWE, I didn't speak up as much as I probably should have about things because I felt like I'm already there. They brought me in. They know who I am. I shouldn't have to go and beg for people just to promote me on a poster. As for the older guy now, thinking back to the younger guy, I would tell him to go get everything. You've only got one life to live, Miss Piper. You've only got one opportunity in this world. And the worst thing to have is regret. Regret, looking back, going, I should have done this, I should have done that. Don't hold regret. Try everything. If you want something, go after it. Don't let fear control you, because that's the biggest problem with a lot of people that don't get to do new things that they want is they let fear. What if? But nobody says, what if it works out? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
we do this little segment here, and we are winding down with our questions, so it won't be too much longer.
No worries.
We do this section where it's kind of a rapid fire. We'll throw you a couple things, and you pick which one you prefer, or don't, or whatever. It's just kind of a Trevor Murdoch's hot takes, real quick.
Right on.
We'll run down the list. All right.
Okay. So first one.
What? No, wait a minute. No, I got it, Miss Piper. If we're going to do this, I want confidence in that voice. I want to hear you loud. Be direct with me.
Okay. Von Erichs or Freebirds?
Von Erichs.
Okay. Bye Bye Miss American Pie or Friends in Low Places?
Come on, Friends in Low Places.
DC or Marvel?
Ooh. Marvel.
Taylor Swift or Justin Bieber?
Neither.
I'd choose Taylor Swift.
I'm with her because she just recently did that album that's kind of folksy with Bon Iver and Exile. Give it a listen. It's not bad. It really isn't.
No, I'll try. I'll try it.
Jedi or Sith?
Ooh, Jedi. Good one. Come on now.
Sweet or savory?
Excuse me?
Sweet or savory?
Sweet.
Steak or seafood?
Steak.
Now for your kids, Doc McStuffins or Mickey Mouse Clubhouse?
Ooh, which kid?
Let's go with the 4-year-old.
Yeah, look for
4-year-old Doc McStuffins for sure. But before, my son's big Mickey Mouse Clubhouse fan. My other son, Trevor Paul.
The most watched video on YouTube is Baby Shark.
Really?
Yep. It's number two is Despacito. Number 1 is Baby Shark. and about 20,000 of those views come from us. So.
Well, my son used to be, my middle son, Trevor Paul, was a big fan of the Backyardigans. I don't know if you get, well, you know as well as I do, when your kids watch something they enjoy, they watch it 100 million times. And so I thought I was away from Backyardigans. The theme song I was like, oh, thank God, it's finally out of my head. And my 4-year-old recently found Backyardigans a couple of days ago. So now we are on a Backyardigans marathon.
That's
nice.
Me with Hamilton.
If you like it, you like it.
So I'm going to throw out a couple of names out, and you tell me if you can tell me what these gentlemen have in common. Okay.
Okay.
Jack Briscoe, Tommy Wildfire Rich, The Hands of Stone Ronnie Garvin, The American Dream Dusty Rhodes, Jax Dane, Cahagas, and Colt Cabana.
Were they all national heavyweight champions at one time?
Yes, but more importantly, they were national champions who went on to become the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Which leads me to my real question. So, what is next for Trevor Murdoch? You are obviously committed to being a fighting champion, and I know that having that belt is a tremendous honor, that beautiful national championship. But it has always been the number one contendership for the 10 pounds of gold. So where is Trevor Murdoch 5 years from now?
Trevor Murdoch in 5 years, at the very least, I feel will be former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. At the very least. Right now, when it comes to being the National Heavyweight Champion, I want to stay in my lane in that aspect. I want to make this championship the best I possibly can. I want to take advantage of what's going on with what I have now. As a young man, I was always thinking about, well, I've got this, but it's time for me to go after this. I never really felt like I focused on what I had. And it's human nature to always think, to have something and to always think, well, maybe this would be better. It's human nature. I'm trying to learn from that experience in that aspect, that I want to take this national championship and I wanted to make it so wildly popular that guys are begging for opportunities to be a part of it. I want people to feel the same way about the national heavyweight title as they do the NWA heavyweight title. It's the place to be. It's something that I want. With all that being said, I do want to be world heavyweight champion. I do want to have my shot. I do want to represent this company, and I do want to put my name next to Harley's in the history books. That is my goal. That is my desire, and that's what will happen. I'm just hoping that you guys and everybody else will be with me along for the ride.
Oh, we're here, man, and we this question comes up in our live show all the time. You know, who's the man that's going to unseat Aldis? And usually I'll say something kind of tongue in cheek, like, "Well, it's not going to happen for another 1,000 days." But when it does happen, there's only one or two men out there that can do it. One of them is Trevor Murdoch. You know, that's it. The other would be, you know, somebody like a James Storm or an Eli Drake. But you are in that echelon. Maybe Tim Storm has another ride, but certainly I would have to agree with you. It's almost a certainty that in the next 5 years, Trevor Murdoch's going to be world champion.
That's my goal. And what a lot of people don't know about me and the current NWA heavyweight champion is we have a past. And what I mean by that is I was actually the WWE World Tag Team Champion when Mr. Nick Aldis came to the States to go to Harley Race's wrestling academy for a week just to get himself looked at and get an opportunity. And it's crazy to think about it now because Nick was one of the guys that I actually stopped and talked to and asked about where he came from, what his goals were, career aspirations. And I tried to help him and give him as much advice as I can to help him be successful. And throughout the years, it seems like Nick and I have always ended up in the same locker room somewhere. I remember catching up with Nick in India. We were talking about India for Rinka King. And this was before he had his beautiful little boy. My son was, I believe, 4 or 5 years old. And I remember having a conversation with Nick, explaining to him the joys of being a parent and how much it instantly changes you. Everybody says, "Oh, I changed when I had my kid," but nobody really knows until your child comes into the world and you're looking down at this human being, going, "Wow, I get to take care of you. I get to teach you and lead you throughout the world." And it's funny, when his son was born, I got a text message from him, and he said, "Trevor," he goes, "I still remember our conversation," and he goes, "Man." He goes, "You are so right." He goes, "You are so right on how my life completely changed for the better the minute I laid eyes on my son." So Nick and I, throughout the years, have always had a connection, and we've kept an eye on each other. And Nick obviously went to TNA and did great things there, became NWA champion and did great things there. So it almost feels like that collision course that Nick and I are on. Right now, we're both staying in our own lanes, but I feel like it's, like you said, it's inevitable that we're going to meet one day. And it almost feels like it will be coming full circle when that day comes.
I love what you were just saying about Parenthood, because as an educator too, I tell my colleagues all the time, look, being a public school educator is only an extension of being a parent. Anything worth doing in education is just an application of good parenthood. And I feel like my two oldest, like you're saying, I mean, they're having a kid, you can't understand it until you do. And they're all life-changing experiences. But I'm like, my oldest two, I was very young, and they got probably the worst possible version of me. And then Piper got a pretty good version of me. And then my 2-year-old's got like the best version of me. And every time I have like this awakening, every time I, with each child, it's different. But it's always, like you said, it's like, it's worldview changing. You can't understand unless you've been there. So, anyway.
Most of our viewers already know where to find you, but will you tell them anyway?
Yes, ma'am. I am on Instagram and on Twitter at The Real T Murdoch. And of course, I'm on Facebook. And there's only one of me, but there's a couple of me, which of all the people in the world to mimic, I'm not exactly sure why I'm that individual. But you'll go on Facebook, guys, and I'm on there. You'll see plenty of family pictures and personal pictures of me that I'm not afraid to share with the world, my family.
Do you have a pro wrestling tees store or anything like that to sell merch or anything
You know
like that?
what? I do not. I'm actually, but I'm glad you brought that up. I am actually working on right now my first wrestling shirt ever. I've never had a wrestling shirt.
That's crazy.
I don't know why. I've never had one in WWE. Never had one in TNA. I've never had one. And my wife, it's funny the things that I just kind of forget. Or my wife goes, "You should probably get on that. Like it being your first one, it might sell out pretty quickly." So that's what I'm actually in the process of doing. Is I'm creating my first shirt, and I should be able to make the announcement about it within the next week.
That's cool. Yeah, you need to sell merch. I'm telling you, and I don't have to say this, but you are over like crazy. You come up in every conversation I ever have with anybody. Like, what's going on with Power? What's about? You come up every time, and your stuff will sell like hotcakes. So you owe it to yourself, your family, your kids. Get that merch out because we will be buying it.
I understand. I understand.
Hey, champ. You have been so gracious. So we meant to do this a few weeks ago, and life happened. Your parenthood, but we're glad we could do it today. Again, we love you. You are beloved in the hashtag NWA fam. You are as much as we love Aaron Stevens. I don't know if we would go to the power tapings, then the Aaron Stevens get up, and that was us up there.
Believe you me, I see you. I see you.
Well, as much as we do that, you have to know that you are every man. You're every man's champion. You really are an authentic person, and we're so proud to have been able to spend this few minutes with you this morning. And just the best of luck to you. I can't wait to see you get that 10 pounds around your waist in addition to that national championship. So that's cool.
Thank you guys for having me. This has been a pleasure. I hope to see you guys real soon. Hopefully, at a power taping. Again, thank you guys for having me. Miss Piper, it was a pleasure to speak to you. Please continue to work hard and don't be afraid to ask people questions, and don't take no for an answer, young lady. Mr. Stinson, thank you for having me on. You're doing a great job as a dad. You're raising that young lady right. And to everybody else that's out there watching, thank you guys for your support. Thank you for pushing me, for standing behind me, and just letting me know that you guys are there with me. Because believe it or not, I feel every bit of it. When I walk out into that ring, you guys are right there on my shoulders, and I'm out there doing my best to try to represent you guys, and not only myself, but you guys.
Thank you, champ.
You bet.